Thank you for being here this morning. I have a question about the budget and policy. I've got here Pete Peterson's book, Running on Empty, which quotes you on the front as saying it's a necessary reading for everybody who's interested.
A little closer with the microphone, please. So that
Sure. It quotes you on the front saying it should be required reading for everyone involved in public policy who cares about the future of America. Mr. Peterson says, as for permanent tax cuts, Milton Friedman taught us they were a fine idea as long as we remembered that they were not tax cuts at all, unless accompanied by permanent spending cuts. Otherwise, they were simply a shift in taxes to future taxpayers, which is to say a tax cut for us, but a tax increase on our children. My question is, how would you answer Mr. Peterson in terms of your support for the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts, making them permanent?
Thank you. The book that this gentleman is referring to is called Running on Empty. And a guy named Pete Peterson, who has been in public life for many years, but also has headed up an organization called the Concord Coalition, which is a group of Americans who are dedicated to restraining spending, balancing the budget. They're one of the strongest voices for economic sanity that there is. That's why I had my own plan in 2001 for cutting taxes, but it was also restraint of spending. My friends, it's not revenues that were harmed by the tax cuts. Revenues were generally beneficial. It was the spending that got completely out of control. Pete Peterson is exactly right. And I fought against, and I voted against, and I railed against wasteful and unnecessary spending, which led to corruption. I was, along with a Democrat named Byron Dorgan, led the Abramoff investigation, for which there are people in federal prison today. I am proud of my record of fighting against earmarking, wasteful spending, and increases in spending. I voted against the Medicare Part D prescription drug program. You know why? Because you're paying for my prescription drugs. Why should you have to do that? Let's take care of low-income Americans. And we laid on your generation and hers an unfunded liability of hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, let me just point out one example. Who could vote against a, quote, farm bill? Who could vote against a thing labeled the farm bill? Well, I did, and I'll tell you why. Because there's subsidies, ethanol subsidies. There's ethanol subsidies which distort the market. And by the way, you might be interested to know there's, if I believe the number is right, $93 million for thoroughbred racehorse owners. There's $15 million in it for asparagus growers. Now, I'm not saying anything about asparagus, please. But the point is, it's giving people who are very wealthy additional dollars of yours when we have Americans struggling to keep their homes and finding a job. It is an example of what we've got to stop. What we have to stop. I agree with every word that was written in that book, and I wish every American could read Running on Empty. I wish they could read it as well. And so I agree with him, and I do believe, by the way, Americans are beginning to get it. I think they're beginning to get it. They know where this money comes from, and they know it's theirs, and they know that they deserve a much better deal in the